In episode 7, Judy has a new lease on life. She feels great after 3 months of feeling crappy. She's done with chemo and she feels amazing. She heads to the doctor's where she's painted her a picture as a thank you gift, but she gets a little bit of bad news. The doctor tells her that this is only the first round of chemo. They're going to go and do a scan and see if she reacted to the chemo, and if she did, great. She doesn't have to go through a second round, but odds are she's going to have to go through a second round of chemo. Most people do. And Judy just wasn't expecting that. She thought this would be a 3-month stretch and then that's it. She's cured. And now she's learning that she'll probably have to go in for another 3 months. Being sick for 3 more months isn't really appealing to Judy at all. It's also not that appealing to Jen. She goes and has a doctor's visit and she just can't understand how in the world she's pregnant. Sure, she felt things, but she just figured it was the menopause. And the doctor lets her know that, yeah, she is going through menopause, but that doesn't mean she still can't get pregnant. The good news is the baby looks healthy, but right now Jen doesn't want to hear anything about a baby. All she wants to do is go back in time and not have sex with Ben. For the time being, she's planning on keeping it a secret. So much so that she stops off and gets a hideous-looking poncho to wear to cover up her little bit of a baby bump that she's already sporting. When she gets home, Judy has made her a thank you gift for helping her get through chemo. It's a wine flight. Of course, Jen can't drink wine. She's pregnant. And she also doesn't want to tell Judy about it. And the fact that Jen doesn't want to drink, Judy thinks that it's because Jen is not drinking in solidarity of Ben being in rehab. But Jen says, no, it has nothing to do with that. I just want to focus on my health right now. She's a really bad liar. They then start talking about what they're doing that day, and Jen has to get ready to show a house. It's actually for her neighbor Karen. Jeff and Karen have split up, and while Jeff is taking it in stride, Karen is not. You hate to see a young romance die so quickly, but they're selling the house. Jen is in charge of showing it. And all the while, the only thing Jen can think of is this baby that she doesn't want to have, and the fact that she's worried people are going to figure out that she's pregnant. After all, who's rocking a poncho in Laguna Beach? It's actually more impressive she even found a poncho, but I digress. As if her day can't get bad enough, Jen gets a little bout of nausea and she steps out of the house to just puke in a bush, and there's Ben standing there looking at her. He's fresh out of rehab, and he's ready to do his reconciliation of the 12-step program. Even though both Judy and Jen tell him that it's not even worth doing that, it's fine, everything's forgiven, he still feels like he needs to apologize. He then lets him know that he's planning on moving back up north. He's got to get back to that life. He's now realizing there was a reason he left Laguna in the first place. There's just a lot of bad memories. This would be a good time for Jen to pull him aside and tell him that he's going to be a dad again, because he already has a son in college, but she doesn't do that. They just tell him that they're really going to miss him. Judy asks Ben, are you sure that you really have to go? And he tells them, I'd only be staying out of obligation to my parents, so there's not really any other reason to stay. Ben was probably trying to fish around for Jen to say something, convince him to stay, but she doesn't. She stays quiet. And once Ben leaves, Judy yells at her for that, saying he was clearly trying to get you to say something, but you didn't. You were supposed to be the one to convince him to stay, but you just stayed quiet. Jen tries to act like there's nothing going on between the two, but Judy reminds her that Jen did say his name twice when she was tripping. She also had sex with him twice, so there's definitely something going on. They get in an argument about whether or not Jen loves him. Jen saying she doesn't, and Judy saying, I just don't believe you. Jen tells Judy, I can't even look at him. I killed his brother. Judy reminds Jen that his brother killed her husband, but Jen says, yeah, he doesn't know that. And Judy says, well, maybe he should. What if we just told him the truth about everything? Don't you think he could forgive you? And Jen does not think that Ben will forgive her. Judy starts reminding Jen about how they told each other the truth. And yeah, they went through a rough patch, but it worked out because that's what friends do. Jen thinks about it and agrees with it, so she tells Judy how she's pregnant. This comes as quite a surprise, especially when she starts putting the puzzle pieces together and realizes that it's Ben's child. Judy tries to spin this in a normal, positive way, but she struggles to do that. It's obvious that Judy is upset and hurt. She knows that now she'll never have a child, and here's a woman that she's friends with who's also going through menopause, and she happens to be pregnant, and she doesn't want it. It's just tough for Judy to swallow that pill. Judy excuses herself because she needs a minute. And a little bit later, Jen gets a text from Perez that they need to meet. Nick showed Perez what he found, the picture of Charlie driving what he thinks is the hit-and-run vehicle. Perez tries to dispel this theory, saying it really doesn't make sense. Why would he try to hurt his own mother? But the way Nick pieces it together, maybe the target wasn't his mother. Maybe it was Judy Hale because Judy was in the car that killed his father. It was retribution. And if you look at what happened with Steve Wood, it might have been Charlie all along. Even though Perez continues to dispel the theory, the way that Nick looks at it, Charlie had motive, and now he had opportunity to do it. He then asks Perez if she ever heard back from Agent Moranis about the wooden bird, but she says, no, never did. And Nick finds that super weird. He suggests that maybe he go follow up, but Perez says, no, don't. We should just bring Charlie in. She doesn't want Nick to go with, though. She wants to talk to Jen alone, so she tasks Nick with isolating the plates on the footage. She then met up with Jen and shows Jen the picture of Charlie, and Jen tells her emphatically, Charlie did not hit us. Perez, though, isn't so convinced. I mean, the evidence is pretty clear. But when Perez threatens to pull Charlie downtown and press charges against him, Jen finally comes clean that it was Ben, but says she's not pressing charges, no harm, no foul, and he's sorry about it, so just let him go. Through Jen's explanation on why they shouldn't arrest Ben, Perez is able to discern that Ben must have been drinking. So drinking and driving, yeah, she's got to do something about that. Jen begs Perez not to do anything about it, but Perez screams, I can't. I'm not your sorority sister, I'm a cop. Perez then starts trying to convince Jen on why she should press charges, and Jen blurts out, it's because I'm pregnant. That does change things quite a bit. When Jen leaves Perez's car, she goes to check on Judy, and she apologizes for everything. It's not like Jen went out and got pregnant on purpose, but she still feels bad for her friend. And Judy says, don't apologize. They start talking about the pregnancy, and Jen's really concerned because she feels like she can't do it alone. She tells Judy, if you want to repay me for helping you through chemo, help me through this. I can't tell Ben. It just wouldn't be fair. Judy tells her, Ben deserves to know all of it, and then maybe he can process it. Maybe that can lead to you guys having a life together. But Jen already has a life, and she's comfortable. They then kind of go their separate ways and go do their own thing, and later that night, as Jen is hanging out with the boys, Judy walks in. She tells Jen that she's thought of a better way to repay her, because odds are she's not going to be there to help her out throughout this whole process. After all, she does have stage 4 cancer. So she went over to Ben's place and convinced him to stay. Judy didn't tell Ben that he's going to be a father, but Ben was keeping a secret. He tells Jen that the night that Ted died, he had something to do with it. He was involved because they were driving him home. He was drunk and he was in the back seat when they hit Ted. Deep down, Ben takes full responsibility for the death of Ted. If he wasn't drunk and they didn't drive him home, Ted is still alive. Ben came over because he doesn't want any secrets between them, and Jen agrees. She's about to tell Ben about the fact that he's going to be a father, but that's when Perez and Nick show up and arrest him. It gives Nick no pleasure that he has to do this. He looks at Ben as a friend, but he has to arrest him. Perez didn't want to do this, but Nick kind of made an impassioned speech about how he was being sidelined by Perez, and he didn't appreciate it. He looked at it like Perez thought he was a bad cop. So Perez ended up giving him a little bit of insight, and that insight was that Ben was the one who was driving that day. Perez apologizes to Jen, and then they take Ben in. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry, it'll be up in a day or two.